Hey friends, happy Monday or Tuesday or whatever day of the week you're listening to this. It's the Diet Diaries. This podcast is going to come out Monday. It's Memorial Day, Monday, May 25th. And I always say this. I always say, I'm going to dive right in. So I want to talk about something today that I've been talking about, kind of, I guess on social media, but I wanted to start to flesh out this idea a little bit more here today. And that is this idea around the fact that what you think is a problem that you have with food is actually a problem with your behavior around food. So hear me out. I'm going to kind of walk you through some personal stuff, some kind of case study type stuff, and a couple of like, oh shit, now I get what she means kind of things, to see if we can get this to kind of click for you, because I really think that this is truthfully maybe something that I've actually had a little bit of trouble articulating, but I think something that we all struggle with in terms of we think the problem is X, meaning food. And so we're constantly trying to fix and control the food piece, but our problem is actually the behavior around food, and we're never addressing it. And that's why we kind of always end up back up at square one. All right. So here's what I mean. Like, one of the most kind of still palpable feelings that I have from when I was like in the years of just food obsession was this experience of going to a restaurant and ordering a salad with grilled chicken, hold the croutons, dressing on the side, when I really wanted a club sandwich with fries. And at the same time as this was happening, I wasn't losing weight, and I was putting in so much effort to eating clean, and I wasn't enjoying anything I was eating, right? Every time I would go out to eat, I'd read through a menu and think of no less than 6 things that I wanted to eat. And then I would always get the salad, the grilled chicken, hold the croutons, never breaded chicken, God forbid, right? That was going off the deep end, while I watched everyone else order the stuff that I secretly wanted. And then would always do the like, oh, can I have some of your fries? Can I have a bite? Can I have this? Can I have that? And I thought I was doing the right thing, right? I was choosing the healthier, low-calorie option, right? How else was I going to lose weight if I didn't order the salad with the grilled chicken? But here's the thing that I was missing all of that time. I had no clue that constantly forcing myself to eat meals that I could not stand in the name of quote unquote being good was backfiring. And it was what was causing me to, go crazy on a box of cereal at night, or 4 days later when the weekend hit, end up in like a 48-hour cheat weekend instead of a cheat meal, which was inherently problematic in and of itself and existed because I was so focused on eating healthy, right? And it wasn't until I worked with a coach and then really studied behavior change and really became an expert in eating behavior change that I fully understood how damaging and how ineffective that strategy for weight loss was, right? Because not only was I not losing weight, the food noise was so fucking loud that I would finish a meal and do the mental math for how many hours and sometimes even minutes it was until I could eat again, right? So by the time the weekend rolled around, I was so drained from all this. I had used up all of my energy and all of my attention that the planned, quote, cheat meal I had to have some relief would morph into, like I said before, a cheat 48 hours. And then the whole time I'm like, shit, okay, I'm going to start over Monday. It's going to be okay. On Monday, I'm going to go back. I'm going to get back on the wagon. I'm going to get back on track. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay, right? That was how I got myself through that mentally. But here's the thing. It wasn't until I gave myself permission to start eating food that I actually liked instead of only food that was, quote, good, that I stopped gaining and losing the same 30 pounds and settled at a weight that I could easily maintain. And that was not at the top of that 30-pound gain, right? I'm not sitting here saying, oh, I was gaining and losing the same 30 pounds and I settled out at the top. No, I settled out somewhere in the middle, like probably just underneath like that midway point, in terms of like the up and down of the 30 pounds, because 30 pounds down was way too low, 30 pounds up was way too high. And even though it has been so long since I've lived this way, I see women doing those same things that I did and living with that torment every day. And it breaks my heart. Things like eating a super small breakfast to save up calories for later in the day. looking like buying Halo Top when you actually really want the Ben & Jerry's or the Haagen-Dazs. Saying things like, yeah, I'm going to only eat 30 grams of carbs a day, right? All in the name of being good, eating clean, so I can lose weight. But then what happens is you just end up crying in your closet because your jeans still feel tight and you feel so fucking resentful when your family grabs Wendy's on the way home from a sports game or your Friday night pizza and you can't have any because it doesn't fit within the box of the rules that you've created for yourself, right? So what I talked about at the top of the episode, I'm going to circle back to now. The reason that all of those rules that I did and that you are doing and have done don't work is because what you're doing is trying to fix a problem with food, but your problem is with your behavior around food. That's why no matter how many rules you put in place to control yourself, so you don't eat carbs or desserts, you always end up giving in and putting yourself back at square one, right? I understand the science and psychology of behavior change. So I understand what strategies are going to get you the results you want and the strategies that aren't going to get you the results you want. And so much of the work that we do in coaching is approaching what's going on from a behavior change standpoint instead of a food standpoint. And the second my clients stop making up random rules to feel in control around food and start identifying, now listen closely, start identifying the mismatches between what, why, and how they think they should be eating and what they truly need and want to eat, things start changing. I'm going to say that again, right? There is a mismatch between what, why, and how you think you should be eating and what, why, and how you truly need and want to be eating, right? And when we identify that and we start to uncover and address those mismatches, that's when things start to change, right? And you start to feel immediately less panicked when there's like an open bag of candy in the pantry. And you stop eating snacks after your kids go to bed. And you stop feeling resentful. Again, like I said before, when your family goes out for pizza on Friday night and you can't have any because you already had your 30 grams of carbs for the day and pizza just doesn't fit that, right? And then eventually, because you start to change your behaviors around these foods, instead of putting rules in place to control them, it is going to regulate your overall food intake. And that's going to play a huge role in weight loss. And eventually you're going to pull on your jeans. You're going to be like, oh, these are starting to fit again, right? Things are shifting. So I'm going to introduce a concept I've never introduced before. So I'm going to do it here on the Diet Diaries. And that is the idea that eating is a biopsychosocial behavior. I know that sounds like a really fancy word, and I'm not going to use it all the time, but I want to introduce this concept, right? This is not something that I have made up, right? The term biopsychosocial is a widely understood concept in the field of pain science and behavior change and psychology and therapy and all of this, right? Here's what biopsychosocial means. It means that something is impacted by 3 different factors. Bio meaning your biology, right? All of us have the biology of our bodies and how we exist impacts our behaviors around food, right? This is why some people can eat anything they want and never gain weight, and some people eat the tiniest amount of food and gain weight easily. Hi, it's me. This is why some people have really big appetites and some people have really small appetites, right? This is why some people love cilantro and some people hate cilantro, right? This is biology behind this, right? Then you have psycho, which is the emotional and the mental part of things, right? Your eating is impacted by your feelings, your mental state. What's the stress going on in your life, right? What type of mood are you in? How are you managing anxiety, right? So much like what your psychological state is has a huge impact on what you're eating. And then there's the social part, meaning big picture, what's happening in culture, what's happening in society, right? What do you see trending on social media? What is everyone around you eating? How are they talking about food? And then down to a more micro level, what are your friends and family eating? How do they talk about food? When you're in the presence of certain friends and family, how do you eat? Versus when you're in the presence of other friends and family, how do you eat? You know that you have certain friends, when you're with them, you eat in a certain way, and you're with other friends, you eat a different way, right? You have certain friends where it's like, if you order anything but a salad, you feel totally uncomfortable. And then you have other friends where they're like your fuck it friends. And like when you just want to say fuck it and eat whatever you want, you go to those friends, right? Coming down into the real minutia of what's happening in your own household. right? What are your kids eating? What's your partner eating? What's happening right immediately around you? So biopsychosocial. Eating is a biopsychosocial behavior, meaning it is the behavior of eating is impacted by all three of those categories, and you can't separate them, right? They intertwine. It's all like messy and interwoven. So when you start to understand that concept and you think about, oh, I'm just not going to eat sugar for the next 30 days. It's like eating is so much more fucking complicated than telling yourself you're just not going to eat sugar for the next 30 days that you start to be like, oh, okay, I kind of get why that's not going to work, because eating is way more complex than saying I'm just not going to eat something for 30 days, right? The mental and emotional piece of eating is so much more powerful than saying to yourself, I'm just not going to do this for 30 days. Being in the presence of certain people or family members, or what you see on social media and how that's impacting what's going on in your brain, again, way more powerful than this promise that you make to yourself. Plus your biology, right? How hungry you get, what type of foods you like, how strong or not strong cravings are for you, right? So we just put these band-aids on to control the eating, and we ignore all of the factors that are influencing our behavior, and there's a total mismatch. So when you have a step-by-step process that actually understands the way eating happens, and it understands the science of behavior change, and it works with all the reasons why you eat, things will start to shift, and quickly. And this is what my Eat with Ease coaching framework is built on. It's what it's all about, right? And then when you start to repeat the processes inside of this coaching framework, very quickly, you're going to get to a point where you're no longer starting a new plan every 6 weeks, praying that this is the one that works, right? And instead, you're finally feeling like a normal person around food, right? Where you walk into a restaurant and you actually order the thing you want and enjoy it and stop when you're full without fucking overanalyzing every bite. How many macros I had? How many calories do I have? What does this mean I can't eat later in the day? Okay, I'll be good tomorrow to make up for it, right? You just eat in peace, like a normal human. Not to say that all this behavior is abnormal, but I use that term, that eat like a human, eat like a normal person, because I think people get it. I think you know what I mean, right? It's not to say that these things are, what's the word? Not abnormal, but problematic in terms of like, oh, there's something wrong with you, right? There's something wrong with you. This is such a pervasive, insidious problem that, like, not every woman, but I mean, there's a statistic out there that says 65 to 75% of women suffer from disordered eating, right? So 65 to 75% of women are thinking and dealing with things, with the things that I'm talking about. That's how pervasive it is. So in some ways, it's almost like the new norm, which is kind of scary. But anyway, I just wanted to provide a little context to when I use that language, right? And so understanding that your issues with food are about your behavior around eating and your behavior with food is why, like, for instance, I have a client who lots and lots of trigger foods, right? Reese's were a big one. Reese's peanut butter cups. Could not keep like a single, like, double pack, like the two that come in like the 2 cups. Could not keep a single one of those in her house. And after a couple of months of working together, was able to keep an open bag in her pantry for 3 weeks and like forgot about them, right? And she lost 20 pounds over the course of 5 to 6 months as a result of that. And not just that, right? The way that the work then showed up and impacted other foods like that in the same way, right? And this is someone who had tried, I'm just not going to eat Reese's. I'm not going to buy them. I'm not going to have sugar. She had done all of that. And she always ended up giving in. And that's what happens. You always end up giving in. And that feels terrible, right? Just that idea of like, oh, I gave in. It feels like submissive. It feels like you lost. It feels like, ugh, it's so defeatist. There's no choice there. There's no autonomy. It's like, ugh, I gave in, right? So this is why when women come to me drained and exhausted from following all of these crazy rules and still stuck, right? You're still where you've always been. They're able to start eating food they actually like and start losing weight because, again, inside my coaching framework, we're not focusing on what you should eat. We're focusing on what you want to eat, right? And this is not it's a free-for-all. I want to eat cupcakes. No. This is not that, right? Because there's many, many other pieces of structure that get applied to this, right? Around the nutrition piece, around the fullness piece, around what feels good for you, around identifying and understanding what your body needs and how you feel when you eat that food. around learning how to eat things sitting at a table on a napkin without your phone, not grabbing a snack as you walk through the kitchen and eating it in the car on the way to your kid's soccer carpool, right? And sometimes, yes, of course, that is going to happen, but there's a tremendous amount of structure that gets applied to this. So I wanted to kind of share some, a lot of context and kind of some personal examples and some client examples around this concept of it's not a food problem, it's a behavior problem. So if you are someone who is finally ready to eat a piece of cake without promising yourself yet again that this is the last time I'm not going to eat cake ever again, I'm here. That's when you reach out to me about coaching, and I will take you step by step through the process of my coaching framework so that you can get those same results, right? So you can have your favorite foods around in your house and eat them when you want to eat them and forget about them when you don't, and pull on your clothes and have them fit and feel good, right? Yes, you can have both. You can, quote unquote, have your cake and eat it too. So that's what I got for you today. I'll be back next week. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for being here. Always, always, always. I appreciate you. And I will see you very soon.